Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. As you saw from the title, I'm going to be talking about what I want to see in the future of the MCU once we get past Secret Wars, Doomsday, all of these next upcoming movies coming out over the next 2 years. And if you couldn't tell already, I am a huge Marvel fan. I've read a lot of the comics and I have a lot of opinions regarding what the future of the MCU should look like. But I also want to say before I start talking about what I want to see from the MCU, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys want to see as well, because there is probably a few things that I didn't even think about during this video. So definitely let me know what you guys want to see in the MCU in the future. But with Spider-Man Brand New Day literally right around the corner, coming out in about 2 months, and Doomsday coming out at the end of this year, I did just want to touch on exactly what I want the MCU and Marvel as a whole to be doing moving forward with these movies. And my first major thing is that once we get Avengers Secret Wars at the end of next year, I do not think we should have another major event film like Doomsday, Secret Wars, how Endgame, Infinity War was. We shouldn't have another major event film like those with Avengers in the title. And now I have a couple of reasons why I don't want to see Avengers in the title of major event films like that. The first main one is, honestly, no one even calls it Avengers something. Like whenever I hear someone refer to Avengers Infinity War or Endgame, they always say Endgame or Infinity War. And especially with Doomsday, it's always Doomsday or Secret Wars and things like that. And when it came to comic titles, they didn't call it Avengers Secret Wars with the Secret Wars comics. They just called it Secret Wars, which I think is just such a cool title. And with something like that, with Secret Wars or with a future upcoming big event film like these movies, they should just title it based off of, you know, whatever comic runs or whatever it is going to be following. Because again, I just feel like it's a lot more of a clean cut, nice sounding title if you just call it Secret Wars rather than just sticking that Avengers in the front of it. Now, a second major reason that I have that I do not like the Avengers title being in Doomsday and Secret Wars is that the Avengers is not a team anymore. We haven't seen the group of the Avengers together since Endgame, when half of them died / retired in Steve Rogers' case. So I don't understand why we're titling the movies Avengers when, you know, yeah, we're gonna have an Avengers team, but they're also focusing on giving us the Thunderbolts / New Avengers team, and we're also getting the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Like, we're going to have multiple major teams playing major roles in this movie. So I don't understand why they're just calling it Avengers Doomsday rather than like Doomsday just by itself, or like something else that has to do with Doctor Doom. Again, Doom is like the main thing of this movie, not the Avengers, because again, they're not even the only main team in this movie. And my final reason why I don't want to see Avengers in any of the upcoming major event films titles is that I don't think we should be focusing on the Avengers in the upcoming MCU post Secret Wars. I feel like we can still get Avengers movies, but they need to be like smaller scale movies, like how the first Avengers movie was, where it just brought together a bunch of different characters who had their own solo movies before. And like, yes, it was kind of like a major event in the MCU, but it was early on enough to where if they did the same sort of thing now, it wouldn't seem as much of a major event as it did back then, because it was the first like big thing that happened. But I feel like now in the MCU, an alien invasion in New York isn't the craziest thing that's happened, and I feel like they could get away with it being a non-major event film and not really having much other characters other than the Avengers themselves interacting with this event. Real quick, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos like this or future reviews. And if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure you smash that like button so I know you guys want to see more content like this. And with that, let's get back into the video. But the characters I do think they should be focusing on in a post-Secret Wars MCU, and there are a few groups and characters that I believe they should be focusing on in a post-Secret Wars MCU. The first and the main one that they should be focusing on moving forward in the MCU is the X-Men / mutants. And personally, I feel like the only proper way to set up the mutants and the X-Men is to have that event of people becoming mutants and everything throughout the world happen at the end of Secret Wars or sometime within the Secret Wars movie, so that we can move directly into an X-Men movie a year or two after Secret Wars and not necessarily have to pre-establish them getting their powers, kind of already just having that whole part set up, and then just have them becoming a team in the X-Men movie. And again, as I said, I think that is the major group they need to focus on, is the mutants and the X-Men, because from the rumors that I've heard, the X-Men team we should be getting in the MCU is going to be the like OG Comics X-Men, which consisted of Jean Grey, Cyclops, Iceman, Beast, and Angel, which I think is an absolutely phenomenal lineup. And then apparently they're going to also add a couple other mutants, and I feel like they shouldn't add more than 3. And if they are going to add 3, I think Storm definitely has to be one. And then I would say Gambit and Rogue. So if we had a team of 8 X-Men and we also get introduced to Professor X, I think that would be a perfect setup for the X-Men and the mutants moving forward, especially if they had Charles go and start his mutant school to kind of keep helping us introduce more mutants and stuff throughout the MCU as they move forward. And I do believe that this next saga of the MCU is going to be called the Mutant Saga, which is why I think the mutants are going to be such an integral part of the MCU moving forward. And I do also believe the second main group slash character we need to focus on in the MCU after the X-Men is Spider-Man, because I do feel as though Spider-Man has been severely underutilized in the MCU so far, which is why I'm really excited for Brand New Day, because obviously the last time we saw Spider-Man was half a decade ago in No Way Home, and now we're finally getting to see the aftermath of everything that happened there with the multiverse stuff culminate together and see where he's been for these past, few years. And honestly, I feel like just moving forward, we need to see Spider-Man in more stuff, because I would say honestly one of my major complaints of the TV shows like Daredevil Born Again and the Punisher special and like all of these kind of street level stuff that we've been getting is that we aren't seeing everyone interacting together. Like, we're not seeing the street level come together and work together in any capacity, which makes zero sense. And we also don't know if Daredevil's ever met Spider-Man. Obviously we know Matt has met Peter and like technically he's met Spider-Man and everything, but we haven't heard him reference that at all. We haven't seen Spider-Man referenced at all in Daredevil Born Again, except in season 1 when Fisk became mayor and was talking about a gun-toting vigilante, a man with a spider symbol on his chest, and a masked man with devil horns. That whole speech that he made when he became mayor. We saw him mention Spider-Man. Does that mean that he's interacted with Spider-Man? We haven't seen that stuff, and I think that is a major issue with the consistency of the MCU, specifically with the shows like Daredevil Born Again and this Punisher special we just got. Although, yes, we know for a fact they are in the MCU. We've seen them interact with other MCU characters, but we haven't seen them interact with like Spider-Man, which is like such an important integral character to the street level stuff in my opinion. So the fact that we haven't seen that yet is very upsetting, and I know it's not Marvel's fault, it's Sony's fault with that, but to be honest, I feel like the solution is literally just Marvel has to shill out the couple $1 billion to buy the rights back from Sony or something along those lines, because I do just feel like with the MCU, if Marvel had all of the rights to Spider-Man and they had no guardrails with it, I think we would get a absolute peak MCU. Now, the third major group I think we need to be focusing on in the MCU post Secret Wars is the Fantastic Four. We just got introduced to them last year with First Steps. They were technically in another universe, but I'm assuming based off rumors and leaks and everything that they're going to either in Doomsday or Secret Wars kind of have those universes merged together, because I feel like it would be kind of stupid to keep the Fantastic Four in their own separate universe and like possibly have them like come over into the MCU every once in a while or something. And I think it would be even more stupid if they just decided to completely scrap that whole universe and just start a new Fantastic Four team actually within the MCU universe instead of this pre-established Fantastic Four we had in this 828 universe and bringing them over, them having just a whole new team in the MCU, even if it's the same actors. I feel like would just be a stupid choice. And also personally, I do have to say, I feel like the focus on the Fantastic Four and the focus on Spider-Man kind of go hand in hand together, because I think we absolutely need to have the relationship that Johnny and Peter have together established in the MCU, especially because this would be the first time in live action on screen we have seen Johnny Storm and Spider-Man together, and like Spider-Man with the Fantastic Four and stuff. And I think it would just be a phenomenal choice if they decided to actually go through and establish that like familial bond that all of the Fantastic Four have with Spider-Man, especially if you have this whole thing of where he joins the Fantastic Four for a period of time and like just all of that kind of cool stuff. And we're also supposedly getting a sequel to Fantastic Four First Steps in the next couple years. I think in 2028 is kind of like where it was slated to happen. So I definitely feel like since that will be coming out post Secret Wars, it has to be set within the actual MCU, not in this other universe. Because like, sure, it would be neat if we got to see like multiple universes throughout the MCU, but with major characters like the Fantastic Four, especially moving forward post Secret Wars, I don't think they should be in a different universe than the rest of the MCU. And my fourth major group that I think we should be focusing on is all of the like magic supernatural side of the MCU, because we've just gotten Agatha a couple years ago, where we get Wiccan, we get Death, Agatha, all of this stuff. I think we need to continue that on. I also just feel like with Doomsday and Secret Wars, they are going to, in some capacity, bring back Wanda. So getting Scarlet Witch stuff would be really, really cool, especially post Secret Wars. And then also we're supposed to be getting a Doctor Strange 3, so focusing on Doctor Strange, Clea, all of that stuff that we saw at the very end of Multiverse of Madness. And then also them hopefully introducing us to Ghost Rider and everything, getting to see Moon Knight again, and hopefully finally getting to see Mahershala Ali as Blade, especially with Eternals and how that ended, maybe getting them to introduce themselves to Ghost Rider and kind of building that team up with Moon Knight and getting a Midnight Suns team finally in the MCU. Honestly, I feel like it would be sick if they did like a special presentation for Ghost Rider where we kind of just get introduced to Ghost Rider, and then maybe having the ending of that special being Ghost Rider running away from, you know, like Mahershala Ali as Blade and Kit Harington as Black Knight, and having them go and recruit Ghost Rider into this team, getting them to establish the Midnight Suns, and then maybe getting a full Midnight Suns show, movie, or just another special that's the Midnight Suns where we get to see, you know, Moon Knight and Doctor Strange and all of these other characters interacting together and using this, you know, supernatural magical side of the MCU, especially also because we just got Mephisto in the Ironheart show as well. So kind of bringing in Mephisto with Midnight Suns stuff, or even getting Mephisto with the Spider-Man stuff. But yeah, I feel like especially because of these last couple years in terms of the shows and like stuff with Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, Eternals, etc., getting to see that more magical, mystical, supernatural side of the MCU would be super, super interesting. And then also sort of going hand in hand with that too, getting to see more of the cosmic side of the MCU, because obviously we have characters like Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel and Photon and everything that do have connections to the cosmic side of the MCU, as well as like the Skrulls, the Kree. We've seen like all of that kind of stuff very briefly, and I feel like just going even more into that, especially because we got at the end of Secret Invasion the Super Skrull stuff, maybe going further into that, but also like the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. We've got this new team of Guardians and stuff like what are they going to do with Star-Lord moving forward, since we know he's on Earth and that he is going to return at some point. Because personally, I would love to see a Star-Lord like solo movie. That would be super sick. But then we've also got like Adam Warlock and the Sovereign and all of that stuff. We've got like all of those kind of things, and then also Mantis going off on her own, Nebula's stuff, Drax, all of these other Guardians characters that have kind of split apart. I feel like we need to see their stories continued as well. But then also it is rumored that we are supposed to be getting a Nova show, and I feel like kind of giving us a sort of a more focus on the cosmic side of the MCU, especially again tying back into Fantastic Four, because they got their powers in space, and you know, the stuff with Galactus, Silver Surfer, etc. I feel like all of that would be really cool to just explore further. But also another group that I do think we should have a little bit of a focus on as well is the Avengers / the Young Avengers. I think these should be put off to like the most back burner type thing, where like, yes, we still need to have them established and existing and doing stuff and giving us movies and things for the Avengers / Young Avengers and whatever. But I definitely think we need to see more of Fantastic Four, supernatural stuff, the cosmic stuff, and the X-Men and Spider-Man and things like that. I think those need to be the primary focuses. But at the same time, I do think we still need to see all of the street level stuff, see the Young Avengers finally get introduced, because it's been a long time going since we've gotten introduced to our first potential member for the Young Avengers. And there's been a lot of introductions to characters that are meant to be a part of the Young Avengers or could be part of the Young Avengers, and we just haven't seen any more from them. Like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we saw Patriot get introduced. Obviously not as Patriot, but we still got that kind of pre-established and introduced. And then we've just never seen anything again of him since that show 5 years ago. We also technically got introduced to Kid Loki in the Loki show. Again, 5 years ago. Haven't seen anything since. And then obviously we also got Cassie Lang, who we saw actually in a suit and everything in Quantumania. But again, that was 3 years ago now. But then we also got Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye show. But again, that was 4 years ago. And then we just got introduced to Wiccan in the Agatha show. But that was 2 years ago now, and we haven't heard anything more. And we're also supposed to be getting the Vision Quest show later this year in September, I believe, where we're apparently supposed to see Speed, or Tommy Maximoff, off. And again, that would be another member that becomes a part of the Young Avengers that we probably won't see them do anything with for a few years. But then we also have Miss Marvel, who we kind of saw in the Marvels at the very end go to Kate Bishop to try and start up this team. So we already saw kind of the blueprint setup build up for a Young Avengers team. And again, that was in 2023, so it was 3 years ago. So technically, I guess we did see Kate Bishop there, but it was literally like 4 frames of her because it was mainly about Miss Marvel going and recruiting her. But then we also have Scar, who is Hulk's son that we saw introduced in the She-Hulk show a few years ago, and we haven't seen anything more with that, which I feel like is super surprising considering we're also supposed to be seeing Hulk in Brand New Day. So I wonder if they're going to mention that at all in Brand New Day. But technically, Scar never becomes a part of the Young Avengers. It's Hulkling that ends up a part of the Young Avengers. But honestly, I wouldn't be super surprised if they just decided to switch it to being Scar since they already established him, or if they're just going to kind of like retcon that ever happening and then introduce Hulkling. And then another major player for the Young Avengers is America Chavez, who we only have seen ever in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which came out 4 years ago now. And there was supposed to be, I guess, a Strange Academy like TV series that I guess is kind of like greenlit again now, but it was canceled for a time period, which was probably going to be the next time we saw America Chavez. But again, it's been 4 years now and we haven't seen her again. So I don't really have a lot of faith in the Young Avengers, but I do think they need to establish that and actually bring that together and do like a Young Avengers movie or a short or a show or something. But then also talking about the Avengers, I think they need to actually bring back an Avengers team, have Sam Wilson be the leader of it, and then just make sure that we're keeping Hulk, Thor, put Captain Marvel in there, even add in some of these new Avengers / Thunderbolts characters, like give us like Bucky, Yelena, or if you don't want to do that, at least keep them being their own sort of team together and let's see them again. Let's see a new Avengers movie or a Thunderbolts movie or whatever Marvel decides to do with them, but make sure that we get to see them again. But now that I've gone through all of the characters and groups that I want to see focused on moving forward in the MCU, I also just wanted to talk about real quick the sort of stuff that I actually want to see them physically doing with the MCU, specifically with the movies and TV shows and specials. Personally, I do think they need to focus more on making movies and putting movies out there rather than doing a lot of these TV shows introducing these random characters. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate the TV shows, but I think the TV shows should be reserved specifically for certain characters because I do feel like there are specific characters like with Daredevil and how we have Daredevil Born Again and Punisher and also the Defenders and everything. I think the TV show format works really, really well for their characters, specifically because you're able to cover so much more ground. And I think with those characters that are more grounded and are the street level heroes, that I definitely do think the TV format works the best for them since we can do a lot more with it. But honestly, I feel like when it came down to shows like the Hawkeye show and things like that, where they were essentially there to just introduce us to these characters to become the Young Avengers, and then we never got anything out of it, they should have just straight up done a Young Avengers movie, like doing that kind of thing, kind of cutting down on making the television shows, focusing on specific characters for the TV shows that you do need to focus more in depth and have a deeper, longer, drawn out story. But then other characters, just give them movies. I also do think the special presentations are super underutilized in the MCU so far, considering we've only gotten 3 and we got the first 2 in 2022. So it's been 4 years since we got the first 2 and we did finally just get our 3rd one a week ago. I definitely do think they need to give us more special presentations because I do think having these like single like 40-minute to like hour 10, hour 20 long, essentially TV show episodes that are following like one specific comic line for a specific character or just following what they would be doing at a specific time. I feel like those work really, really well. And I think it draws a bigger audience in and makes people want to see more of those specific characters. Like I definitely think, again, a Midnight Suns type thing where we get introduced to Ghost Rider and then at the very end, it brings us the whole team of the Midnight Suns together. That would be such a cool special presentation that would lead into people being hyped for a Midnight Suns movie or a Blade movie or Moon Knight season 2, or like seeing a Bullseye special presentation that's following what Bullseye is doing with Mr. Charles at the end of Daredevil Born Again season 2. Or again, even more so, just more Punisher specials, or like just bringing these other characters kind of going through, hey, we don't have enough time or enough budget to create this big, 2-hour long movie, but we can give you like a 45-minute little thing that's showing this is what this character's been doing. Like, those would be very, very successful. I guarantee it. But other than those things, my main issue when it comes to stuff with the MCU and like the projects they're putting out and everything is that they don't feel super consistent together. Like, personally, I find it a little bit difficult to place a good portion of the MCU projects, mainly because we are not seeing other characters within the shows or movies or whatever at any other points. So we have no real basis of when and where each of these stories is taking place other than what Disney Plus tells us, or what Marvel tells us, Kevin Feige tells us, or what we can just assume based off what we see in the actual projects. Even now, still to this day, it's been 4 years since we had Moon Knight come out. I still technically could not tell you where that takes place within the MCU because we see nothing else of any other characters. Now, I'm not saying throw Spider-Man in every single show, or throw Daredevil in a random show somewhere, or just throw like Yelena in somewhere or whatever. Make sure that they tie together, make sure that they work together and have, you know, kind of just like a mini thing. Because as I saw someone point out with Daredevil Born Again Season 2's finale, where we have Daredevil in that hallway fight scene and he's fighting all the anti-vigilante task force agents. Literally, you could just have the screen flash black, like the lights are turning off and stuff, and then hear thwipping noises, and then one of them is webbed up or something, and there's a note that says like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man or something like that. Like, having something like that is the minimum of what I want to see them do. Just kind of establish, hey, these characters, even though you're not seeing them fully in these projects doing these certain things, they are still there, they are still active, and they are still doing certain things throughout this time period. Because if I'm being honest, I think that is the thing that has been the most detriment to the MCU post Endgame, is that we're not establishing exactly where certain things are taking place in the timeline. So it ends up getting confusing for a lot of people, and then they'll just kind of go, I won't even bother anymore. So I would definitely say my main issue overall with the MCU that we've been getting so far is just the timeline of events, but more specifically when and where everything is taking place. And I think if they can fix that, make everything more consistent and make everything make more sense, and just have everything be able to piece together super well, I think the MCU would be exponentially better. Not saying that I haven't enjoyed certain projects and stuff, but I definitely think I would have enjoyed a lot more projects a lot more had they been able to tie everything together with very minimal referencing. But yeah, overall, that is all of the stuff that I kind of want to see moving forward post Secret Wars for the MCU. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, if there is anything that you guys want to see moving forward in the MCU that I didn't cover in this, make sure you do mention it in the comments, because I will be looking at those, because I definitely do feel that there are things that I missed that I would want to see in the MCU moving forward. And I also just want to hear your guys' opinion. But on that note, I'll see you guys in the next video.